If you've ever worked a crappy summer job, you probably already know there's always that one customer who makes you question every life choice that led you there. For me, that customer appeared after I'd spent the entire day scooping ice cream. Not just a couple dozen cones, 1,500 scoops in a single afternoon. It was ice cream day at the summer camp where I worked, and I'd been standing behind a sticky folding table for hours, my wrist threatening to seize up permanently. Kids were lined up like tiny sugar fiends, eyes glazed over with the single-minded desire to get their scoop of vanilla or chocolate and then run off screaming with joy. By the time I reached the very last person in line, I was delirious with fatigue. I'd run out of small talk, my back ached, and the thought of cleaning up 20 gallons of melted ice cream made me want to evaporate into the floor. But hey, the end was in sight. One more serving, and I'd be free to go nurse my sore wrist and consider a career path that didn't involve wielding an ice cream scoop like a medieval weapon. That's when she appeared. Let's call her Karen. Because of course, she was a Karen. She was an adult volunteer helping with the camp, probably in her 40s. Hair pulled into the tightest ponytail I've ever seen, posture radiating self-importance. She looked at me with the intensity of someone about to start a lecture. "Does this ice cream have peanuts?" she demanded. I didn't realize it yet, but this was about to become the most ridiculous interaction of my entire summer. I took a breath. Peanut allergies can be serious, so I wasn't immediately annoyed. I get it, no one wants to end up in the ER over a dessert. "It's vanilla ice cream," I said, trying to sound calm even though my wrist was screaming. Karen didn't blink. "Well, there might be peanuts in it," she shot back, as if I'd personally hidden them there just to test her. I paused. There was no logic to that. The ice cream was plain vanilla. No toppings. No mix-ins. It was literally a 10-gallon bucket labeled vanilla ice cream. Still, I didn't want to get into an argument. So I turned around and walked into the kitchen, where the head chef was reloading trays of brownies. "Hey, chef," I called, trying not to sound like I was losing my mind. "Is there any chance there are peanuts in the vanilla ice cream?" He looked up, eyebrows raised. "No. It's vanilla ice cream. No peanuts. No peanut toppings out." I thanked him and went back out to Karen, hoping that would be the end of it. "It doesn't have peanuts," I told her. Chef confirmed. Her eyes narrowed. "Well, I need you to go check the box and see if there are peanuts in the ingredients." I blinked. Twice. "Okay," I said, because what else could I do? So I trudged back down the stairs to the walk-in cooler, where it was about 40 degrees and smelled like stale milk. I found the giant tub, propped it up on my hip, and read the label. Cream, sugar, vanilla extract. Absolutely no peanuts. Just to be safe, I decided to haul the entire container back up so she could see it herself. Maybe, finally, she'd believe me. I set it on the table in front of her and pointed to the ingredients list. "No peanuts," I said, trying not to sound as tired as I felt. She bent over, reading every single word with the fervor of someone searching for a hidden code. Then she looked up, face pinched with suspicion. "Well," she announced, "they might have peanuts in the factory this was made. You need to check." I just stared. "And how exactly am I supposed to do that?" I asked, probably a little snarky by that point. Karen puffed up like an angry pigeon. "You're being extremely rude," she declared. "I should be able to have ice cream like everyone else. I'm going to report you to management for this attitude." At that moment, I realized I was truly done. The funny thing about PettyRevenge is that you don't really have to plan much when you're dealing with someone like Karen. She did all the work herself. As she kept ranting about how I was refusing to serve her, I realized she'd never actually asked for an alternative. She wanted vanilla ice cream. She wanted it presented in a way that would give her zero uncertainty, zero risk, zero inconvenience. But that's not how life or summer camp works. While she was still mid-speech, I set the tub of ice cream back on the table, slowly rotating it so she could read every single line of the ingredients for the third time. "This is all I have," I said flatly. It was like dropping a match into a puddle of gasoline. Her voice went up an octave. "You're being completely unhelpful. Do you think this is acceptable?" I just looked at her, My face must have been the perfect picture of exhausted indifference because she paused, clearly thrown off by my total lack of reaction. It was glorious. In my head, I was already picturing her sitting in the director's office later, trying to explain that I'd committed some grave injustice by not magically verifying the conditions of an entire dairy factory. And that was when the decision was final. I was not going to remind her about the sherbet. I wasn't going to offer it. If she calmed down and asked politely, I might have. But she didn't. She was so busy performing her outrage, she never even considered there might be another option. I stood there, hands braced on the counter, letting her rant until she finally trailed off and just glared at me. Are you going to do anything else? She snapped. Nope, I said. That's it. I swear I saw her eye twitch. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't even sigh. I just stood there, the picture of unbothered mediocrity, refusing to play along. If she'd asked for a different dessert, I probably would have fetched it. But she didn't. She turned on her heel, muttering something about incompetent teenagers, and stomped off toward the director's cabin to file her complaint. I watched her go, feeling lighter than I had all day. I wasn't about to chase after her. And I definitely wasn't going to chase her down with a scoop of strawberry sherbet like some apologetic servant. It's funny how the tiniest acts can feel so huge when you've had enough. I sat there on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, while she was in the shower singing some sad breakup song. It was almost surreal, like watching a bad movie I'd accidentally been cast in. The seat map was right there on the screen, a little grid of blue and gray squares. I could see our original seats together near the front, nice spots I'd paid extra for. And then I saw it row 33, the very back, center seat, practically vibrating with the stale bathroom air and guaranteed to have zero legroom. I didn't even hesitate. I tapped change seat. Confirmed. Paid the tiny fee. Done. Just like that, she was booked next to the toilet for the entire flight home. I closed the app, exhaled, and felt something unclench in my chest. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't going to undo the trip, but it was something. When she came out of the bathroom, she flopped onto the bed, still scrolling her phone. She didn't ask what I was doing. She never did. I spent the rest of the day in a weirdly good mood. We went to lunch and she complained about the waiter. We walked along the boardwalk and she complained about the sun. I just smiled and nodded. That evening, she started packing her suitcase. She didn't fold anything, just crammed it all in while ranting about how this trip was overrated and not as relaxing as she hoped. I didn't even argue. I helped zip up her bag and then sat on the little couch, watching the sunset through the window, savoring the thought of her long, cramped, center seat journey. That night, I slept better than I had in days. About half an hour later, after the last of the sticky tables had been wiped down and the leftover ice cream was put away, my supervisor came over. She was an older woman who had been working at the camp for years, the kind of person who'd seen it all. She looked tired, but there was a twinkle in her eye as she handed me a bottle of water. So, Karen stopped by, she said. I didn't bother pretending I didn't know what this was about. Yeah, I sighed. She was mad I couldn't guarantee the ice cream wasn't made in a peanut-free factory. My supervisor tilted her head and studied me for a moment. You didn't yell? Nope. You didn't swear? Nope. Did you throw ice cream at her? I snorted. Tempting, but no. She cracked a small smile and shrugged. Then I don't care. I blinked. That's it. That's it, she said. She does this every year. If it wasn't peanuts, it would be something else. I almost laughed out loud. All that drama, and she was a repeat offender. She said she was going to file a formal complaint. I offered, trying not to sound too gleeful. She does that too, my supervisor deadpanned. Last summer she demanded to speak to the director because the hot dogs weren't kosher enough. That was it. The last bit of guilt evaporated. I helped finish closing up, humming under my breath, feeling a petty little thrill. It wasn't the most mature move I'd ever made, but it was the only way I'd found to draw a line. Later that evening, I saw Karen stomping back toward her cabin, no ice cream in hand. I wondered if she'd realized yet that all she had to do was ask nicely for the sherbet. She never did. When you work a low-wage job, you get used to swallowing your pride. You get used to smiling when people are rude, apologizing when you've done nothing wrong, and pretending you don't hear the insults muttered under their breath. But sometimes, just sometimes, you get one tiny opportunity to say no. That's enough. Was it petty? Yes. Did it change anything big? No. But it was a line in the sand. The next day, when I came in for my shift, Karen avoided eye contact with me. She never mentioned the incident. She didn't ask for ice cream again. She didn't apologize. And I didn't care. Because in that moment, I realized that no matter how small you feel, you still have choices. Even if all you can control is whether you bend over backwards to accommodate someone who refuses to show you basic decency. I scooped 1,500 servings of ice cream that week. But I didn't scoop one more for her. And it felt amazing. Some people don't deserve ice cream. And some of us don't get paid enough to pretend otherwise.